Streets and Scholars. Thanks for tapping in with Alex Alonso and FG, aka Frank Thornton, for another episode of we're bringing you another banger. But man, I can barely talk because it's so hot today, man. We're in the middle of probably the hottest heat wave of the year. What you say about that?
100%, no doubt, man. I'll say that we couldn't help but this episode to be fire because it's 100 degrees out there. Shit.
Yeah, it's literally 100 degrees out there, man. I think we've been averaging like in high 90s, low 100s for almost a week.
No doubt, man. And like I say, for LA, man, you know, this close to the water, you know, it's kind of rare that this many days in a row, man, we getting this kind of heat.
And what I found interesting is that it's hotter in this part of LA than it is even in the parts that are normally hotter than LA.
Yeah. Why you think that?
I don't know. I was just telling my son the other day, I said, it's so hot that it don't even matter LA or the Valley or the Inland Empire. The heat is just because usually LA is always cooler.
Right.
But LA was actually hotter by some degrees.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever witnessed that where it's actually hotter here and cooler
elsewhere.
Yeah.
No, I saw the same thing, man. I was like, damn.
So yeah, man, we definitely bringing a fire episode this week, Streets and Scholars. I was looking up Cain Velasquez, man. He just turned 40 years old. And he's still sitting in jail with no bail. And it's just a trip, man, on a pedophilia. Well, his is not a pedophilia case.
It's for shooting at a pedophilia.
An alleged pedophilia. Yeah. Who happens to be free.
No doubt. Chilling while this man in jail, yeah.
Yeah, he's free, and my man is in jail. He just turned 40 in July last month. Well, actually a month and a half ago. He was born 1982. I was just trying to look up if there was any update on his case. He did plead guilty he pled not guilty in August, but so far, no update on him.
No update on no new bail hearing or nothing like that?
Nah, man. So hopefully he'll get a bail hearing. Just like I believe he will get a bail. Because it's all right to get a bail.
Nah, no doubt, man. You know, especially, you know, like you say, he don't have a murder or nothing, you know.
Nah.
And so hopefully they figure it out, let him get out so he can fight his case properly.
And even when you caught your case, I think you was talking on another previous episode of Streets and Scholars, they gave you a bail, or they were about to give you a bail, but then the FBI came in there, or the U.S. attorney came in there and said, nah, you should reconsider bail for Mr. Thornton, right?
No doubt. The FBI came, the agents came, you know, and they came in there, and the U.S. attorney had already agreed to give me one. And because like Frank said, man, ain't no reason us for going there if she not going to agree to do it. You know, we ain't going to waste everybody's time. She agreed to do it. We went in there, man, the feds came in there, and they shut that thing down.
That's crazy because you had every right to bail, but for whatever reason, I guess the courts can find, extenuating circumstances to say, hey, we feel this guy's one of two things or both, a danger to the community and a flight risk.
No doubt. And when I go back and look at it, though, Alex, sometimes I'll be like, damn, maybe it wasn't in my best interest to get a bail at that moment. You know, you fresh in, you hot, you know, somebody done told on you. You might go do some stupid shit. You know what I mean? So, you know, it might have worked out for me. You know?
Oh, yeah, man. It's crazy sometimes how we sometimes say that being in jail for whatever period of time was probably the best thing for me,
crazy,
right?
But shit, sometimes it's true.
Hey, man, I could say for me, man, being in jail is never the best thing for me, you know. But, yeah, it was so fresh at that time. Ain't no telling where your mentality would have took it on the street level at that time in 2004.
No doubt. And even you watching how, you know, even over there in some of them cases over there in Atlanta, you know, where these guys are actually getting caught after they're in jail trying to make some plays or make some things happen, and the charges are piling up. You know what I mean? We think we slick, we think we know it all, we think we know a cool way to do it, you know, but these people out here, man, and also these detectives and agents been doing this shit a long time, man, so we might not be as slick as we think, you know?
Yeah, man, that's real interesting, though, because I'm sure, you know, I know you during more peaceful times, but I could actually put myself in the state of mind that you would have been in 2004, and it was on and cracking. It was on site if something was to go down.
No motherfucking doubt, man. You know, I mean, immediately. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's the word I'm gonna use, immediately. I wasn't wasting no time. And sometimes, like you say, when we get older, we start thinking a little better. We start getting a little wiser, and we start seeing how these laws work. A lot of people are naive to how the laws work, so that's why they doing some of the shit they doing. But when they know what I know or seen what I seen, I believe a lot of people slow that ass down a little bit.
But I also think that even though you turned up in 2004, you get a bail, you go home, you got your wife and kids. Your wife is probably on you saying, look, baby, I know you mad than a motherfucker right now, but this is an opportunity to fight this case, leave all that other shit alone, and focus.
Well, you got to realize my wife wasn't the same person she is now.
Okay.
And I wasn't either. So you wouldn't have been able to tell me a motherfucking thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I might have would have sit back but I definitely would have been having some meetings around this motherfucker. Somebody go, you know what I mean? It would have just been a shitty situation that, but they're absolutely right, man. It would have been hard to lay down on that kind of shit.
Well, I feel Cain Velasquez is not a flight risk at all. He ain't going nowhere. He's a celebrity.
Right.
So there's nowhere he can go, and the judges and the courts could always take someone's passport to prevent them from going places they're not supposed to go. So the other thing is, like the judge said, he's a risk to everybody, a danger to everybody in Santa Clara County, which I don't believe at all.
I don't believe that at all.
So sometimes I feel like it's a form of punishment. We're gonna keep you in here, even though you're not guilty yet. You haven't been completely found guilty. We're going to punish you even though you're not a flight risk and you're not a danger to the community.
No doubt. And it's crazy how somebody else can have the same circumstances and they'll be out right now, And that goes to say, the different judges' opinions, the different judges' feelings on different situations. I've been in courtrooms where I had judges tell me, I hate gang members. You know what I mean? Or I don't have a problem with gang members. I have a problem with gang members with guns. You know what I mean? So you have some of these judges that have, pet peeves about certain things. He may have ran into a judge that had a pet peeve of him about handling his business in the street, and he wanted to make an example out of it.
Oh, man. You just made me think about this case I was working on this week with this Mexican guy. And I went in there and tried to clear up some things that the cop said. And the prosecutor made sure the cop that said the things he said was sitting in there listening to me so that he could say, hey, Alex is full of shit or whatever, right? So I do my thing, and then I leave the courtroom, go into the hallway, and that cop comes out, and I said, you ain't got nothing on me. I didn't say anything. He was like, maybe, yeah, you was all right.
Yeah,
you was all right.
Yeah.
But then we got to talking, and he got to saying that everybody in that gang is evil. I said, well, that gang ain't no different from any other gang. So I said, what you're really saying is every gang member is evil.
Right.
And he actually said, yeah. And I'm like, there's no conversation then. If you think every gang member is evil, we can't even sit at the table and have a conversation.
It won't work.
Nah.
Yeah.
So, it just made me think about that this week. So, YNW Melly, still no trial date. Ain't that crazy?
Yeah, man. He filed a speedy trial, man, over a month ago, man, and it's just not going in his favor.
Yeah, man. I tried to reach out to the lawyer on YNW. Actually, I tried to reach out to the lawyer on Kane's case, too, just to see if we can get, like, an update. And they didn't respond. I'm a little disappointed. Garagos is the attorney for Velasquez. He needs to tap in with Streets and Scholars because we've been covering this probably better than anybody out there.
No doubt. Calling to check with Alex, man. Give us some updates, man. Even if you're just putting in a motion for another bail hearing or let us know a little something.
That's it. Some basics. Like, what's the plan? What you got doing? What you got going on? Do you expect to get bail? And then also, I forget the attorney's name on YNW Melly. I left a couple emails and a couple DMs. No response.
So we don't know if he got that granted to go out and get that dental job?
No, we don't know yet. That's what I was trying to find. I was trying to find out if he, because you said that they're probably not going to give him no love at all.
I'm going to deny him on that, man.
We're going to pull that tooth right here. We're going to dig with those gums right here.
Yeah.
So, no, I didn't get no update on that. And so, yeah, hopefully we'll get some of them to respond. And I wanted to find out what was the update on Mystical because he just barely got arrested. We talked about him like 2 weeks ago.
Right.
You heard anything on him?
No, I haven't heard anything, man. Now, sometimes these processes are taking a little longer than usual. I think they still may be backed up from the COVID backup, so I think things are moving a little slow.
Yeah, man. This actually, since the court system is back in motion in 2022, we're still backed up from COVID because that case that I just told you about is only the second case that I've had since, I guess we could say, the end of COVID. I'm calling 2022 the end of COVID. I've only done 2 court cases, and so those are my first 2 court cases in 2 years. But I see that they're going to be coming in a little bit more often now because the court system in Los Angeles is starting to get going now.
No doubt. And I got a couple attorney friends that's telling me that a lot of motions and a lot of hearings are being seen via video. You know, they're not even going in the courtrooms no more. The inmates not even going in the courtrooms no more. They doing everything via, videos and things of this nature. And I'm wondering, is this going to turn out to be one of the new ways the court system works, where, you don't even step foot in the courtroom. Your attorney don't step foot in the courtroom. Everybody filing motions electronically, So I'm wondering if they trying to pave the way to limit the process of flooding the courthouses and stuff by doing it that way.
Hey, I think that's a way that they might try to keep the defendants out of the courtroom, away from the judge and all the other people. Who knows, man? I know a lot of people that aren't going back to work because they proved to their bosses they could work remotely.
No doubt.
So maybe the courts might be changing because, we're starting to see, like, for example, when Suge Knight's case, that civil case back in July, he was never in the courtroom.
Damn.
He was remote.
Oh, is that right?
I think he was in the courthouse, but not the courtroom.
Right.
They might have a room somewhere in the basement
down there, yeah.
And they're doing it like that. So that might be the new way of doing it, man. What else here? I wanted to ask you about this. My favorite, well, she's not my favorite quote unquote prosecutor, Fani Willis, because I think she's a little too hardcore. Mm-hmm. She rapped a lyric that one of the defendants in that recent indictment that she just brought down, she rapped some of the lyrics where they were talking about flocking, home, just going into houses, but it wasn't specific. But she said that those lyrics are an admission of guilt to the crimes in this indictment, even though it wasn't specific. So I was like, bad on you, Fani Willis, because those lyrics, even though they're talking about, flocking, it's not specific to anything in this indictment.
No doubt, but that's what they're trying to do, Alex. Like I said, they're going to throw anything. They're going to throw it all up against the wall and see what sticks. It's going to come down to the jurors to see if they smart enough, to decipher that. You know what I mean? Sometimes, man, these jurors get up there and they believe anything the prosecutor say. Then you get something to get up there and be like, hold on, that don't have nothing to do with, did they say an address? You know what I mean? Did they say a name of a victim? Did they say, even a neighborhood that they was in? Y'all just throwing shit out there to make us believe that these guys are guilty of more things than they actually are guilty of if they're guilty of anything.
Yeah, she said in her press conference, don't confess to your crimes if you don't want me to indict you. So she's considering these vague lyrics that are about flocking as a confession to a crime. And I went back, I said, let me listen to this. Nah, that's not, I don't believe it's a confession to a crime.
Well, the thing about it with me is I'm not worried about that part based on these dudes got high power attorneys. And a good attorney gonna eat that up all the way around. You may have a public defender somewhere that's new that don't know how to tackle that issue, but at the same time, these attorneys and lawyers that they have, Alex, gonna eat that shit up right on up.
Well, you're talking about the attorneys for Young Thug and Gunna.
Whoever them lyrics were for. Who was those lyrics? That was a different. That wasn't for.
Yeah, no, this was the recent indictment of the 26 guys.
The
rich. What is it, drug rich or rich?
Yeah, rich drug gang or something like that. Yeah,
these dudes ain't celebrities.
Okay.
These are just some average street dudes.
But it's still take a new attorney can fight through that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. That's allegedly something happened. They can't prove that those are right. They can throw it out there and make the jury hear it, but I don't think that shit'll stick. I don't even think a judge, basically, like I say, be able to authenticate that, So, you just saying something,
Yeah, this was the gang that's out of DeKalb County in Georgia, but they've been, I guess, hanging out in Fulton County, which is Atlanta, and that's what how they got on the radar of Fani Willis. I think it's called Drug Rich Gang.
Yeah, Drug Rich Gang. But I mean, they should have enough money to have an attorney, though.
Hey, I don't like the name of that gang. Like when they got around the table and said, "Hey, what should we call ourselves?" and they came up with drug rich was going to be a good idea to call us.
Well, that's the thing about it. Some people come in on Alex and they make a name and they don't think they'll ever like get to the point to where it's big and realize that it's unmarketable. You know what I mean? So I've seen a lot of people change the name of they situations based on, that it wasn't suitable. I got a guy out that I ride dirt bikes with, man. All they do is ride dirt bikes. They go out there to jump, but they film and everything, and they so they had 187 Films was the name of my buddy, little cool little cat too, ex-Marine and shit, and but he just changed it because him doing dirt bike videos people started to watch him and they started to get bigger, and he just hit me yesterday. They say, man, I changed it. But I knew why he changed it. Marketing purposes, you just want to have a better name. You know what I mean? So maybe when they sit at the table, they probably was a small group, didn't think it was going to blow up, and they blew up. Or, got bigger and bigger,
Now, a lot of people who are listening to us all around this country and around the world, because 187 is specific to California's penal code.
Right. Oh, okay. My bad. Yeah.
So tell the people
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Every state has a different number for their
murder code. Okay, I didn't know that. But 187 is the code for homicide in California.
Yeah.
So if you can charge with a 187 in California, you definitely being charged with a murder.
And Snoop Dogg made that very famous around the world, so we kind of think that 187 means homicide all over the world.
And hey, man, you just corrected me because I would have told somebody from Philly, man, what you got a 187?
They would have been like, what?
Yeah.
Nah, we call him 552.
Right.
Nah, 187. That was Snoop. So yeah, that isn't probably the best name you want to give your. What kind of company did he have?
He filmed dirt bike rides.
So
he's basically editing, filming, and a good little cat.
But you can get away with it, though, I think, 187, because it's not explicitly negative,
True, but, when you out there and where the white folks at, you know what I mean? And, he want to be clean it up pretty much. He's actually want to film me and my sons out there at the track and put it on his channel and everything, man. So I'm going to let him go and do that. But at the same time, yeah, I understood it, and it's a lot of people who probably had different names to their group, Alex, before we knew it as what we know it today, you know what I mean? But drug rich was definitely not you was asking for it damn near, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to get away with that when you're in court and you're trying to fight like drug charges and flocking charges.
Right.
But that's what you call yourself. You got an uphill battle and you're making it difficult for your attorney to fight it. But I find that name kind of crazy. Remember we talked about okay, Guy Reffitt, the dude from January 6th, he went on trial and lost.
Right.
Now they got about a handful of guys called the Oath Keepers that are about to take it to trial too. Mm-hmm. Man, a study just came out by the Jewish Defense League on the Oath Keepers. And the Oath Keepers, they identified 300 people in the Oath Keepers that are cops, military, and elected officials.
Damn.
And the Oath Keepers are considered, they've been identified by the federal government as like, I think a white supremacist racist group.
No shit?
Yeah. So the Oath Keepers actually have 300 quote unquote legit people in it. But at the same time, it is one of these fascist, right-wing, racist groups, man. So I was just like, wow. Now the JDL, the Jewish Defense League, they be on top of this stuff. Anything that is a threat to the Jewish faith, they breaking it down.
Yeah, no doubt.
And other than white supremacists hating black people, they hate Jews.
No doubt. Shit.
So I was checking out this report by the JDL, and I was like, wow, some of these Oath Keepers are about to go on trial, man. And I don't think they're going to be victorious.
I don't think they'll be victorious, but I do think that they're going to go on trial with the jury of their peers. Other cops, military people, or city workers and shit like that. So, I always worry about the jury, because if you can convince a jury or you can get a jury to ride with you, you'd be surprised. But I just don't think they're going to get away with that one.
Yeah, they're described as a far right anti-government militia group with racist tendencies. So, and I'm sure everyone within the organization is going to say certain things about who they are and what they actually mean. But right now, the Oath Keepers ain't looking too good for what America's supposed to stand for. and we'll find out what happens with these guys when they go on trial. They're probably going to end up with the same fate as Guy Reffitt.
Well, we definitely gonna see what plays a part. You know what I mean? Because sometimes judges and prosecutors, these may be some of their buddies. So we gonna see if some favors get done, but I don't see them being victorious.
Well, look, they attacked the United States government, and they actually fought against some of the cops that were trying to protect the Capitol building.
Right.
A couple of those dudes, they took a couple of some hits.
Yeah.
And apparently it was from the Oath Keepers.
Man, it's crazy.
So I think at this point they have to be made an example of.
Hey, no, I believe it will, but
if they're guilty,
I'm gonna see how it play out.
Now, look, I wanted to look up Guy Reffitt because he got his 7 years. His case is over. So I went on the internet and looked him up, like the way you said your wife used to look you up. On the BOP, it says Guy Reffitt not in BOP custody, and then it says release date unknown.
Damn.
So I have never seen this before while looking up somebody. Because
I've seen not in BOP custody before.
But you just got found guilty of a federal offense.
How long ago was that?
This was like a month ago.
Okay, so he still could be at a transfer center somewhere. Now, when they used to send us, I know we got kicked out of MDC, Los Angeles. They sent us out to San Bernardino. San Bernardino is a little small. They had not the big county jail out there, but they have a small old county jail that they house federal inmates at. So they have a federal.
Is that not considered BOP when you're in the San Bernardino?
And it's going to come up not in BOP custody. So I was there like 8 months, Alex, and I was there about 6-7 months. And when you were trying to find me in the BOP, it's just always said not in BOP custody. Made me lose out on a lot of mail, a lot of people that wanted to write, a lot of people that wanted to send money because they couldn't find me. So he could be somewhere in a facility that's not a federal facility, just waiting to go to wherever he's going, and it's going to show that. But release date unknown, I don't know about that one.
Well, I wasn't sure if there was some funny stuff going on or if this is just normal because he's newly introduced into the BOP system.
Right. Give it a month or two, he's probably going to show him exactly where he at and a release date.
Plus, he was he was out of custody during his case, so I'm not sure when he turned himself in, where he had to turn himself in, but I was trying to find out what facility that he's going to do his 7 years in, and it said not in BOP custody. And I was like, wait up. I gotta ask FG, what does this mean?
Well, the funny part is normally when you out on bond fighting your case and they sentence you, they usually sentence you directly to the prison that you're going to. So that's a little strange to me because if you out fighting your case and they say, okay, we're going to give you 5 years, they're going to tell you, okay, you're going to go check into Lompoc. You're going to go check in to Leavenworth. You know what I mean? They had already trusted you being on the street. So they're going to check you in. You're going to go right to the prison and turn yourself in. So I don't know what's going on with him, but I say give it a month or two, and he'll definitely should pop up.
Okay, well, I'll check in on that in another week or so. All right, let's talk about one of these topics, man. This is a pretty serious topic, man. At least it covers a serious issue. It's Arie Spears and Tiffany Haddish, the comedians. I know Tiffany is from LA. I don't know. I forget where Arie is from, but they did a skit, man, that was related to what was the name of that skit actually?
It was basically the name of it was
The Mind of a Pedophilia.
The Mind of a Pedophilia, yeah. And basically at the end of the video, they were saying don't leave your kids around anyone. But I agree with the title. I agree with the end. What went on in the middle was crazy.
Well, tell listeners. I didn't get a chance to look at it in detail. What did it show?
Well, I looked at it in detail, man. So basically, the kids in the skit were 7 and 14 at the time. This happened around 2014 when the skit took place. So now the parents are suing because basically saying that they had their kids in sexual acts in a skit. When I looked at the video, man, it was disturbing. The guy Aries was pouring baby lotion, baby oil, rubbing it on the kid's back. I know it was a simulation, but to me it looked like he really was touching him. He actually was in the bathtub with the kid. He was fully clothed, but he was actually in the bathtub with the kid. He's looking through he's playing the fake uncle, like, she leaving with an uncle, and he's looking through a newspaper with holes in the paper, looking at the kids, and the camera actually goes to the kid's butt, you know what I mean, and genital area, of the kid. You know what I mean? And like I say, it was so the part that was disturbing to me the most was the visual. You know, the show that you was looking at the kid's butt and the baby oil. Because you also had the kid putting baby oil on you, and he actually put it on you and rubbed it on your shoulder while you were in nothing but some short pants, basically naked with some short pants on. You know, highly inappropriate by all natures to me. I understand why they are suing, but I'm also wondering where the hell was you at when all this was going on?
Yeah.
Where did you leave your kids at to even go and be in a skit like this? Because anything my 7 and 14-year-old kid gonna do, I'm gonna be right there on the scene, and I'm gonna be like, hell no, that ain't. Or did you think it was cool now? You don't think it was cool then? Now I also saw reports in the different newspaper clips on YouTube. Don't know how official they were, but I saw it more than once that Tiffany Haddish has said that she's glad that it's out in the open because she's tired of getting extorted. Now, I didn't go into that part of it, but at the same time, you know, she did issue an apology, which means she do feel some kind of way. But I think they're going to take a hit on this one, Alex.
Yeah, man. I mean, I just saw a couple of the clips, and it didn't even look like I wanted to go watch it. Tiffany Haddish actually posted a statement on her Instagram page, and she says, I know people have a bunch of questions. I get it. I'm right there with you. Unfortunately, because there's an ongoing legal case, there's very little that I can say right now. And I guess the part where she says, I get it, I'm right there with you, she understands that people are pissed about this.
No doubt. I just wonder what they were thinking at the moment. You know, I get what their ideology was, you know what I mean? Because we should be teaching our kids that, you know, I was raised where I could only spend a night over 2 cousins' house. You know what I mean? And that was it. You know what I mean? Maybe my mother knew more than I knew, you know, but she wouldn't let us go over all our cousins' house, you know what I mean? And it couldn't have been nothing wrong, but that's just how she was protective, you know. A lot of times, you know, when a child is molested, it is by a family member. Most of the time, it's by a family member, you know. So I get what the awareness that they were trying to put out. But they was way too graphic, you know, in the scenes. You didn't need all that to get your point across, you know. And like I say, I would be pissed too you know, I knew Tiffany, she was a friend of the family, and she said, let me use the boys to do this skit, you know, you know what I mean? And that was the skit. I ain't gonna lie, my wife would have whooped her ass, you know what I mean?
Well, those 2 kids in that skit are siblings, and they're the ones that's suing.
Okay.
And they're not identifying their names in the lawsuit. They're Jane Doe and John Doe, but the Jane Doe, I guess the girl was the older one and the boy was the younger one.
Oh, so it was a girl and a boy.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was 2 boys. Okay.
Jane Doe is now 22, and John Doe is 15. So that little boy in there, I guess he's 15 now.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering why so much time has passed since this skit occurred to now the lawsuit.
Well, the 22-year-old probably got old enough. Somebody saw the skit. Somebody probably asked them, do you remember this? How much knowledge do you have of this? And they're old enough to have an opinion that I shouldn't have even been in this. Even if my parents allowed me to be in this, me personally, I shouldn't have been in this skit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm thinking that the 22-year-old is spearheading it for her and her little brother. You know what I mean? To forget that. This is not cool. You know, and I get that part if that's the case, you know, totally.
And then the sister, the older sister, who's Jane Doe, she's now the legal guardian of her little brother.
See, that's the shit I'm talking about.
So I'm thinking like maybe their family's just all messed up.
Exactly.
You know, how are you the legal guardian of a 15-year-old?
That says a lot. You know, that says a lot in itself, you know. And they probably got older and realized that their parents was, like you say, neglecting them by involving them in this kind of shit. It could have been other issues that they have that we don't know about that their parents involved them in. They went to court. She got old enough, got educated, went to court. And I need my little brother with me because that's the only way he going to be safe. Shit, I commend her on that.
And maybe because whatever they was going through with their families made them like more susceptible to what Arie Spears and Tiffany Haddish wanted to do with them because there was nobody around to say yes or no.
Right, no doubt. Nobody to look up to and say, is this cool? You know, 'cause usually sometimes we put in a situation as a kid, first thing we do is look at our parents or look at our guardian. You know what I mean? To get as sure as this cool, you know what I mean? So, you know, and you know, I get it. Like I say, you know, my youngest daughter, you know, wasn't allowed to sit on anyone's lap, any man's lap. You know, if it wasn't your brother or, you know, we just didn't allow that, even I remember when one time my son came to Victorville to see me, and he was getting older, he probably was at the time, he probably was maybe 5, 6, no, he wasn't that old, he was younger than that, and I went to give him a kiss I kissed him all on his face. He could have been maybe 3 or 4. And he was like, no, I don't kiss boys. You know what I mean? And I'm like, dude, I'm you know what I mean? But he looked at his mama like, I know this pops, but but sometimes, you have to try to educate your kids on, outside of the immediate family members, man, just certain stuff you don't do, is not appropriate,
Yeah, this video, this skit was shot in 2013. So that's about 8 years ago. And it says here that Jane was 14 at the time, and the boy, who's going by John Doe, was 7. And there was a mother, but apparently, moms didn't say much.
Right.
And moms had developed a relationship with Tiffany Haddish because I guess the mom was also like a up-and-coming comedian. And that's kind of like the background of it. But I guess these kids are taking this lawsuit into their own hand. It don't have nothing to do with the mom.
Don't have nothing to do with the mom, yeah. Well, I'm wondering if, from a legal standpoint, because they were underage, because a guardian approved of this, like how much, leverage do they have, to beat this thing or, at least get a civil suit, but, or conviction,
Well, they, if they have approval from the mom and they have a signed release, then there is no case here. Right. At least that's my position on it. If mom signed off on this for her 2 kids to be in this skit and then maybe even received a payment, then there's nothing to, I don't believe there's a case, but you never know. But I don't think this, do you see anything where this is a civil case, but do you see anything that kind of crosses over into criminal behavior?
There's nothing criminal about this case on the charges that they filed. This whole case is civil.
This is a lawsuit against them for money.
Okay. Well, the thing about it is this. I believe that they should be compensated, to be honest with you. But legally, I don't know if their case will stick. But sometimes everybody, it ain't always so much about the money as it is to put these people out in public and humiliate them, deteriorate their career, have the world look at them for what it is, or what it was, you know what I mean? And even without the money, So, we'll definitely see, man. But I'm sure, even if they don't win a civil suit through some type of media outlets, they will get paid for an interview or some kind of, I believe they'll, grab a couple dollars, but at the same time, I think they might really want to just out these people.
Well, in this article on the Daily Beast, Jane Doe said, it says here, at the time, Jane said she tried to shrug off what had happened. She says, I didn't confide to my mom. I didn't confide to nobody else about how weird I felt at that moment, she said a year later. Haddish allegedly approached the children's mother with a similar pitch, recruiting Jane's little brother, John, for another video, although the comedian allegedly told the family John would be filming a sizzle reel for Nickelodeon. The suit alleges the 7-year-old wound up starring in a video posted on Funny or Die and other online platforms titled The Mind of a Pedophile. So I guess the mother, to a certain degree, was involved, but we don't know how far, any agreements went or if they were compensated or if there's even a signed off release. But, it reminds me of this album there was an album by Nirvana. Nirvana has an album of a baby boy swimming, and the baby is naked. Mm. And that baby is now like 25 years old now, and he's suing Nirvana for pedophilia.
Wow!
Because it's a naked, literally, he's a baby, like maybe 2 months old, swimming in the water.
Right.
And I was saying to myself, is that pedophilia when you show a naked baby?
Well, the thing about it didn't used to be. You know, people used to send naked pictures of their babies all the time to the cousins or to this or that. I mean, I've seen them posted on time. You know, the kid using the potty, my first potty. You know, and I don't think people at all mean to be on a pedophilia shit. But at the end of the day, with the laws are being what they coming to now, you know, they done got stricter, especially these internet porn task force. You know what I mean? So shit that wasn't even considered pedophilia then is now they're considering it. Now I believe that Nirvana may have some win with this, but at the end of the day, man, when it comes to the civil part of it, and a person do got money, sometimes you know the jury will award them something.
It was crazy. I just looked up the Nirvana case. The album is called Nevermind, and as of yesterday, the baby, who is now a grown man, he lost his appeal. I guess the courts ruled in the band's favor.
Yeah.
Apparently, the parent of the baby approved the photo.
Right, no doubt.
And what was crazy, he had a tattoo of the album himself on his body, and someone was saying if he's so pissed about he's so pissed about this and he's suing, why would he have a tattoo on his body? And I think somebody got in his ear one day and said,
you can get some money.
Yeah, you can get some money. That's you on the cover of that Nirvana album. Oh man, you better
So it's basically a money grab.
Yeah. But apparently, as of a day ago, and I didn't even look this up earlier. As of a day ago, here it is right here.
Yeah.
This is the guy now. He's grown, little baby floating in the water on one of Nirvana's. This is like Kurt Cobain's last album, I believe.
Mm-hmm. What year was that album?
I think it's like 95, 96.
Okay,
whenever Kurt Cobain committed suicide, so they say. But he was trying to allege that this picture of him is offensive or pedophilia, and that Nirvana owes him millions of dollars. But he didn't get no money.
Well, you know what? I'm kind of glad, because it sets the tone for certain shit. Like, God, man, like, really, dude? Like, you know what I mean? So I believe at some point that, you know, they set tones on case law just based on for the next person that want to go out and do the exact same thing, because I'm sure he's not the only naked baby on the cover of something, you know.
But would you say that the skit with Arie Spears and Haddish is a little more offensive than that naked baby on the album cover?
A lot more offensive. Yeah, a lot more offensive, man.
Yeah. This Nirvana album came out in 1991. So I believe Kurt Cobain committed suicide a few years after that. So yeah, man. I mean, I used to be a big Nirvana fan.
I can see how you looked at it like, man, that's my group right there, man.
Hey, you know what's crazy? My kids, who I did play one song. I did play them one song called Teen Spirit, Tastes Like Teen Spirit. Mm-hmm. I did play my kids one song from one of their album groups back then, and they got acquainted with all of this grunge rock music from the early 90s on their own. Mm-hmm. And actually what it was is the Batman movie played one of Nirvana's songs got played in the Batman movie, and it kind of just brought them back to life.
Yeah, no doubt.
So a lot of younger generation are getting acquainted with Nirvana and the grunge movement of the 90s. But even though that Arie Spears and Tiffany Haddish skit is very offensive, I'm gonna just take I was gonna say that the two kids might end up in the same situation as the guy on the cover of this album, and may not get awarded anything because it might have been all approved by the mom.
No doubt, but I have to go and say this though, Alex. How did Arie Spears even feel comfortable? You know what I mean? It seemed like he would have been uncomfortable, you know, doing the shit. You know what I mean? So that's the problem I have with it. I know you was supposed to be trying to get a point across, but you didn't feel uncomfortable getting in the bathtub with a kid. You know what I mean? And
hey, I think comedians they can just get away with anything.
Yeah, I don't know about this one. Like I said, they may not get punished financially, but I think their character's gonna take a hit.
Well, the kid that was on the cover of that Nirvana album, his name is Spencer Eldon, and he argued that picture was child porn, but the judge dismisses his lawsuit, and that's as of just a couple days ago. Isn't that crazy? Yeah. So we'll see what happens with the Jane Doe and the John Doe If the mom kind of signed off on it, like the way I think that Spencer Eldon's parents, obviously, you cannot get somebody's baby to take a picture without the parents around, right? So I'm assuming that Tiffany Haddish and Arie Spears went to the parent and said, hey, you got to sign this release. This is what we're doing. It's kind of crazy, but we're doing this to make a point. And if she signed off on it, and as long as there's nothing criminal, I think they're going to have a hard time getting any money, even as offensive as it is.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I gotta agree with you on that.
But we'll see. All right. One last topic, man. Before we got to talk about this, man. This has been kind of a trending topic in the street circles of the internet streets. Is Snoopy Bad Azz?
Snoopy Bad Azz.
Snoopy Bad Azz, man. An old case popped up on the internet. It's called the People vs. Doster. Back in 2005, Doster committed a homicide, and Snoopy Bad Azz witnessed it.
No doubt, no doubt.
Did you get a chance to read over Doster's appeal from? This was a 2005 case. His appeal is 2008, and it's all over the internet. Did you read it?
No doubt, every word.
What did you think about it?
I thought it was what it was. You know, it was. You couldn't deny what was going on. You know, it was a lot of things in there that I was just like, why? Why would you do that? Why would you? You know, it was a lot of, as a gangster, man, there was just a lot of shit that I just didn't believe that, you know, motherfuckers did. You know what I mean? You know, you see somebody get shot and you just want to pull over, and you see somebody get shot in the head that you know, and you just pull over and want to help the guy. I mean, the guy's dead. You know what I mean? But it was a lot of discrepancies in there. The guy was fighting his appeal, so the paperwork came out. A lot of people don't know that a lot of times you can get the paperwork a lot more easier when the defendant files an appeal. And it's readily available on websites, you know. But that was a crazy case, man.
And one of the reasons why it's readily available because he went to trial.
No doubt.
And whenever you go to trial, everything comes to light.
No doubt. Or like you say, or file that appeal, you know what I mean? It's going to come to light, you know. Now, Snoopy Bad Azz went on with a rebuttal. And that was even more crazier than the case itself.
Well, before we talk about the rebuttal, let's talk a little bit about the case because this was a case that happened in Moreno Valley. This is not a Compton case.
Right.
This is before he was from Hollywood, Peru.
No doubt.
And at the time of this case, I believe he was Snoopy Bad Azz. Melvin Banks is his name, was already 20 years old.
No doubt.
So that means that he became a Hollywood Pyru when he was, 22, 23, 24, which is
no doubt.
Which is a whole nother topic.
Right.
That's another interesting situation. All right, so Damien Doster, Doster, he shoots someone at a In-N-Out Burger, and Snoopy Bad Azz, Melvin Banks, and another guy see it.
Right.
They pull up. And then Snoopy Bad Azz's friend gets shot and killed.
Right.
In the process of pulling up on this killing.
Right.
And at some point, Snoopy made a statement like immediately.
Yes, he said he ran back to the house to get the family. He get the family. He says the family said that, man, you have to go back and say something. Why? The man is dead. What do I have to go say? Nowhere in the world I would have went back and said nothing. I don't care if this was my best friend, my cousin, my uncle. It's nothing for me to go back and say he's dead. It's nothing to go back and say if he was alive, but I'm just saying, you know, dead, it's really nothing to go back to say. You know what I mean? And that's where he made his mistake. He went back, he made a statement. He claims that he made a false statements when he went back to make a statement. You know, one of his points was that, you know, I said the guy jumped out the bushes. If you go back and look at the crime scene, it wasn't no bushes in sight. I don't care if you say he jumped out of a helicopter. You acknowledge that he shot your boy. You know what I mean? So you leaving all that part out. You know, like I say, man, Alex, I can go on for this shit and talk about this case for an hour flat myself with all the discrepancies from all angles. But yeah, man, you know, he saw the guy, he went back and made a statement, and it was crazy.
Well, actually, I think I characterized it wrong. Doster and two of his friends were at In-N-Out, and someone killed one of Doster's friends, an unknown person, from the way I read it. And then Doster ended up killing Snoopy Bad Azz's friend because he kind of thought these two guys may have been involved, but they just pulled up after the fact.
Right.
So one of Doster's friends got killed after a verbal argument in the In-N-Out parking lot with a person, and then Doster ends up shooting and killing Snoopy Bad Azz's friend.
Right. Worm, yeah.
Worm, who we called Worm. But if you look up the paperwork, this you could look this up all over the internet. It's People versus Doster, November 10th, 2008, and it is an appeal because I guess Doster felt that he had action that may be a manslaughter or self-defense because he didn't know what Snoopy Bad Azz and his friend were doing, pulling up on them.
No doubt.
After his friend just got killed. But they gave him, I think they maxed him out, right, Doster?
Yeah, I think they gave him 40 to life. Or
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
So let's go into Snoopy Bad Azz's, what did you call it, his rebuttal?
Oh, man,
Actually, I got a little bit of it here. I guess what we can do is we can play it, and then when you want me to pause it, we'll pause it, and then we'll talk about it because he really thinks he did no telling, right?
Well, you know what? That was one of the things that I was thinking about. I took all that into consideration, and it was funny how he was like really serious and adamant that he wasn't telling. But he's not the only one. I'm starting to see more and more people.
This is a pattern, right?
Really don't believe they telling. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And I'm like, okay, then let's get started.
All right, here we go.
Nigga, y'all about to be mad as a motherfucker, nigga, because y'all lost this one too, my nigga. You feel what I'm saying? I can't believe that y'all even had the motherfucking audacity, my nigga, to put his bullshit ass case up, nigga, and try to call the gangster a rat, nigga. Let me break something down to y'all, my nigga. For one, you can't tell on the nigga that told on his motherfucking self, my nigga. It just don't fucking happen, nigga.
Can we talk about that?
No doubt.
You can't tell on someone that's already telling. Now, my position is it doesn't matter how many other people are telling, even if the person that is the focus of the investigation is telling too, you're still participating in the telling.
No doubt.
And some people that tell believe like, oh no, that they were already being told on, so my telling doesn't really matter because the telling was already told. So that kind of erases my telling.
Right. And that's the ideology that, it wasn't, a minute into the 30 seconds into the conversation that we caught that fast, So you're right. Absolutely right.
And it's kind of the same thing that Cowboy Herman Douglas from 60s kind of said. He's like, look, the murder is all on camera. I don't need to say what happened, who did what. It's already on camera. But by you telling, you're corroborating what's on camera, making the point stronger for who? The prosecution, right?
Plus, you breaking the rules that set forth in the gang that you promised to abide by and live by.
Yeah. All right. Let's get back to Snoopy Bad Azz.
The two don't mix, my nigga. Also, you can't tell on a nigga that got on the stand and told on his motherfucking self. Feel what I'm saying? The link to the whole case is in this motherfucking description, so y'all can go and see what I'm saying, and it's gonna back everything that I'm about to tell y'all, my nigga. My nigga, I ain't never told on a nigga in my motherfucking life, my nigga. I ain't never, nigga, went to go break a law with a nigga and told on a nigga. I was in jail on my own attempted murder, nigga. I didn't tell on my co-defendant. You feel what I'm saying? But since y'all want to put a little piece of the paperwork up, my nigga, I'm going to let everybody see the whole link to the paperwork, and I'm going to tell y'all exactly what happened, and y'all can go put my story with what's in the paperwork. And I'm going to show y'all that these bitch-ass niggas is haters, and they motherfucking envious, my nigga, of a nigga making it, my nigga. Dead homies. And after this, nigga, the road going up, my nigga. Straight the fuck up. Now, let me break this shit down. For one, the nigga that I was with that was killed, this is a nigga that I went to school with, my nigga. You feel what I'm saying? He wasn't a gangbanger. He was a square nigga, you feel me? Me and him, we used to smoke weed and fuck bitches together, my nigga. This is my nigga Worm. Rest in peace, homie. You feel what I'm saying? One day the nigga...
Okay, so Worm, who he's talking about in the paperwork, his name is Mabins. Mabins and Banks approached Garrett's body. Garrett was the guy that got killed that was with Doster.
Right.
So Mabins, a.k.a. Worm, and Banks, a.k.a. Snoopy Bad Azz, they approached, and I guess they knew Garrett who got killed.
Right.
So they was like, oh shoot, this guy got killed. They just pulled up. And boys and girls, when somebody gets shot and someone's killed, or you think they're killed, or they're getting shot up and you see it, stay away, right?
Stay away, man.
If you're across the street, stay across the street. In fact, do what my dad used to tell me. Turn around and go the other way.
No doubt.
But Snoopy Bad Azz and Worm decided to pull right up to the body.
Right up.
Yeah. And I guess that's what caused Doster to get startled, maybe.
Right.
And he killed Mabins, aka Worm, who Snoopy Bad Azz is talking about, right?
No doubt.
So, all right, let me play one more part.
Called me up, right? When the nigga called me up, he said, "Hey man, I got some bitches, homie. You feel what I'm saying? You wanna come fuck with me with some bitches?" I said, "Hell yeah, nigga, for sure. Let's go." So I hop in the whip with the nigga. When I hop in the whip with the nigga, we rolling down motherfucking a street called Hemlock in Moreno Valley, my nigga. When we rolling by Hemlock, Worm is driving. In the paperwork it says I'm driving. Worm family can tell you. I didn't even have a car at the time, my nigga. Worm had just got a car because he was working at Home Depot, my nigga. Feel me? Because I'm finna tell y'all the whole story. Since these niggas want to put up pieces, I'm about to put the paperwork in this link, and I'm going to tell y'all the whole story of the show, nigga. I'm a gangster, nigga. I ain't never told on a nigga in my life, nigga. Feel me? So look. We rolling by the In-N-Out, my nigga. I'm in the passenger seat. When I'm in the passenger seat, we see a nigga run and shoot a nigga in the back of the motherfucking head, my nigga. Worm said he knew the nigga. He's based on the fact that he knew the nigga. He wanted to help the nigga. So the nigga pulled up, my nigga, in the parking lot. While I told him, don't pull up in there, blood. I'm like, blood, nigga, that shit.
Hey, he wasn't even from Hollywood Pyru at the time, right?
Hey, you must have been over here reading my mind. So you didn't say blood. You definitely didn't say that.
Yeah.
Probably said cuz, pull over, but you definitely didn't say blood.
Yeah. I think we get the point on that. There's one more thing that Snoopy Bad Azz says that is really interesting. He says that he bumped into Doster in court one day, or in jail, right?
Right.
The guy that killed Worm.
Right.
And he said that Doster asked Snoopy Bad Azz, "Can you help me in my case? Can you testify for me and say that, just to help me out?" So that's his excuse of why he testified against Doster, because Doster told him to testify against him.
But mind you, he had already made statements prior to that. He made statements because he said Worm family wanted him to go tell the police something, and he went and told them something, you know what I mean? And in that something, you had to say that after this guy jumped out, but whatever he did, he shot this guy. He shot the homie.
Yeah.
So then you go on to say you run into the guy in jail, and the guy said, "Hey, it was an accident. I thought y'all was the ones dumping on the homie, so I killed your homie. I need your help." You know what I mean? And the crazy part about it is he said it was an accident, and he was like, "An accident? Damn. Well, all right then. What, that makes it better?" You know what I mean? So anybody out there, Alex, that listen to this shit, you know what I mean? Besides, I guess the dude who was talking, don't even realize. Everybody realize what the fuck you saying, man. You know what I mean? Now let me back up a little bit. Because a lot of people are saying, the big issue out here now is he from Hollywood or wasn't he from Hollywood, And I got two sides of, I didn't talk to every Holly. I knew about this situation before it even got to the internet. I was called because, who I am from the East Side. This is an East Side situation. I was privy to the information about Snoopy Bad Azz on certain levels of his involvement with the Hollywoods, you know what I mean? On one side, some of the homies saying, well, he ain't from Hollywood, The little homie met him out there in out there in Hemet, Moreno Valley, started letting him claim the hood, you know what I mean? And that's how he started running with the, claiming Hollywood. Once the little homie started letting him claim the hood, he's kind of privy to being from Hollywood and saying he's from Hollywood. So that's where the Hollywood thing come out. He still claims Hollywood, even though he knows he's not welcomed over there. Now, on the flip side, he sends a lot of people as hater and jealous and these things. But at the same time, Alex, if you ever watch this dude whole get down, you could see it was some faultiness in it. You know what I mean? Now, with all this being said, he ain't no punk though. You know what I mean? He ain't no you back him in the corner, he gonna do his thing. You know what I mean? He even reached out to me about a month ago and said, "Hey, homie, big homie, if you want me to come on FG Unleashed, man, I got you. I'll come on there, man, sit down with you and, do an interview." You know what I mean? Now, the thing about it is, say if he didn't have any paperwork on him. Say if he was just beefing with his hood because, he wasn't authentic and people didn't like that shit, and that was the only allegations about him. And he went on to rap on Death Row and make millions of dollars. Now would be homies want them to, "Hey, homie, bring some of the homies in." You know what I mean? Put some of the homies on. And he may have done that. And guess what? Motherfuckers would have fucked with him. You know what I mean? He would have been all right with motherfuckers, even with the background that they know what it is, that he's not authentic, and he was a Crip before. They would have went all that. But once that paperwork hit the surface, all you know, ain't nothing that nobody can say to fuck with you. And you got dudes who did fuck with you, got to start backpedaling and backing up. Say, hold on, homie, I didn't know you was a rat though. I know you wasn't this, I know you wasn't that, I know you might have used to be a crip, you know, but you wasn't a rat. And once you bring that paperwork out, homie, as it should shut down because technically I didn't have nothing against him as far as how tough he was, how tough he wasn't, where he was really from the east side or not. I didn't give a damn. Once that paperwork came out, homie, you know what I mean? I'm coming out with all guns blazing. Homie, you're a rat. You told, you know what I mean? Stop disrespecting the east side, you know what I mean? Take your L. That's what it is. Everybody see it for what it is. You can't talk your way up out of this, you know? So it's unfortunate that, you know, it's a lot of people on the internet that's getting exposed.
Now, when you say he was a Crip, in Moreno Valley, when he was with Sex Cash Money, that's a Crip set?
That's a Crip set, yeah.
Okay.
And they pretty deep out there, and they active. You know what I mean? I can't, you know, they active out there in Moval. You know, so, but like you say, he was 20 years old. You had to be, when the homies started letting you claim Holly, you had to be 22, 21, 23. You know, and that's just too late to, and let me touch on this real fast. This is why a lot of shit is fucked up out here in the streets and shit with the gang thing, is because we all do it. We all go to different states, different cities, and we'll start a gang. Start letting people claim our gang, start recruiting people. You know what I mean? And the thing about when you start recruiting people from other cities, yeah, you want to make the gang bigger. You want to, you know, make the gang better. How you think you got 6 O's in Denver, or, you know, Pirus and, you know, in Cincinnati? You know what I mean? Because people that went out and started other gangs. So when they do this, Alex, you're recruiting people that's not from the neighborhood, don't have hood values, don't care about, you know, what you care about, but they do claim the gang. Some of them take it to heart and actually be stand-up fucking gangsters with it, you know. But like the NFL, I'm sure you've seen a dude get drafted in the first round and just be a bust, you know. And this how it was for Snoopy Bad Azz. The little homie was out there recruiting homies, letting homies, which I don't knock him for that. We all had neighborhoods in other cities, you know, and they let homies claim the gang, and this one didn't work out. You know what I mean?
So that's a little bit of a different issue than the snitching, but the telling on this case, because he definitely made statements early on before he ever bumped into Doster in jail. The statements were already part of the case.
The statement was already part of the case.
Yeah. So he's doing a pretty good job at trying to claim that he didn't tell. But I think if you dig deeper into this case and you figure out the whole timeline of it, he definitely provided information to law enforcement.
Well, as simple as this. It's quick and easy. My homeboy parents said, my family said, you got to go tell them something. And you went and told them something. I don't give a fuck what you told them. You told them something pertaining to this murder. Pertaining to this dude, you say he jumped out the bushes. You had to tell him who he was, you know, whether it was you just said a guy. You said somebody jumped out the bushes, and then what they do after that? They didn't stop, oh, okay, somebody jumped out the bushes, okay, well thanks for coming. They didn't do that, man. When he jumped out the bushes, what did he have in his hand? Did you blah, 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 blah? And they questioned that boy up and down. And if we had the fucking sentencing transcripts or the trial transcripts, we would have every single word he had. I could go get him, but why? I already know it's enough that I have, you know, and I have all the paperwork as far as this appeal is concerned. It's enough right here, bro, to say you told.
Yeah. Well, I think we're going to touch on this probably again on another episode, because this is a developing story, and Snoopy Bad Azz is definitely trying to defend his name. But like you said, people are going to have to start backpedaling from him. I wonder if Snoop Dogg is going to backpedal, because he just gave him a death row chain before all this went down. It remains to be seen what Snoop Dogg's position is on this.
Well, you know, Snoop Dogg's position, like you said, he definitely got the paperwork. He definitely got the message. He definitely understands the dynamics. Was this kid signed, or was he just given a chain to promote the, you know, and possibly be signed? You know, that's one thing, you know. But on the flip side, you know, the thing about it is the credibility that this man has, no matter if he come out with a platinum album, you know, yeah, it would be good for Snoop's pocket and making money for Death Row. But at the same time, man, this dude's name is tarnished forever. You know, and I know it's a lot of other rats out there that's rapping, getting millions. You know what I mean? So it can be done. But at the same time, I'm just wondering if the road want to go in this direction, especially this early on, you know, and you know ahead of time, he didn't make an album for them yet. You know what I mean? And I just don't believe that he may get the opportunity to do what he think he's going to do.
Well, on that note, man, we're gonna wrap it up right here on another episode of Streets and Scholars, man. Where can they find you at? Find you, F.
And you can find me at FG Unleashed on YouTube, man, which I'm definitely going to go, since Alex didn't let me talk enough about this rat shit. I get emotional when not emotional, but I get pumped up when I talk about these motherfuckers. But FG Unleashed, YouTube, F General 1, Instagram, y'all tap in with me.
And tap in with me, Alex Alonso 101 on all social media platforms, and check out the Street TV YouTube channel, where I'm going to start trying to drop a couple of clips from Streets and Scholars. And thanks for tapping in with another fire episode of Streets and Scholars.